At the bottom of the bed, hit the hiss of my disc. Ain't go got up, but the left. What a whip for the flip, the rest. Don't quit, got this, do it swift. Hit to uplift. Wanna walk on me? Well, it's a little deep. If the speech heats, I pop off indeed. Stay high spitting, make a better living. When my boots hear me, they know that I'm not kidding. Put the beat on, get my freak on. Live a looking beast now, pretty at least, Eat it the second, the minute that I feed it. What, we don't feel I can gyrate, with the hoop irate. Yeah, they call me Bombay, I'm the bond grade. Better bum fake, couldn't care. I don't partake, I'm aware. Are you there? Hold out the velvet. Over here, over there. What a homie rap. Please cut that shit, cause that best out there. Peace to the mic and the soul and flair. At the bottom. Elusive, yep, you can't touch me. Barely bitty and busty. When I pull up at the door, strut and make a mode. Get them in the mood when the rhythm go, ooh.
Fabulous Dean FM is in the building. Hi,
How
Dean.
are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being had by me.
No problem.
First of all, you look fabulous.
Thank you.
So a quick background for our listeners. You are under the umbrella of being a queer rapper.
Yes.
And you also are an activist, an LGBTQ activist, which I love.
Yes, absolutely.
And you are from Boston.
Yes.
Okay, so my first question is, what is the hip hop scene like in Boston?
Oh, well, the hip hop scene, there isn't one. I don't really perform. I mean, I'll be honest. Like there is one, but I don't perform much in Boston because there isn't as much of a scene, obviously, as in New York or LA. And I just know that by just numbers and stuff. So, I mean, it's not that great. They had a club that I used to go to all the time. It closed down. It was called The Machine. And yeah, there isn't much of a scene here. And the only time I've performed has been at like open mics and and at like coffee shops and stuff. So I'm definitely trying to expand and go other places too.
Okay, that answers my question because I was like, is there a hip hop scene in Boston that I'm missing?
Yeah. I don't know much about it if there is, but I'm sure there is one.
Right. So as a queer rapper, how do you feel like I'm assuming that you've performed outside of the Boston area. How are you received outside of Boston, like in the scene at large?
Well, so I've performed only in Massachusetts and in New York.
Okay.
New York was probably the best one. I mean, so to be honest, most of my shows have been in Massachusetts, even though that my a lot of what I do isn't performing as of recent. So, but in New York, people loved it there. So I always get a lot of support wherever I go because I go to a lot of queer venues and stuff, and I found that those environments are always the most welcoming.
That tracks. I can see that. So I was listening to your music in anticipation of our meeting today.
Yes.
And
I was listening to your podcast too.
Oh, thank you.
Where's Martha?
Okay. Martha is nursing an injury.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So I'm letting her rest. I was like, I got it, baby.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
I will send her your love.
All right, sounds good.
So I was listening to your music, and thank you for listening to the podcast. That means a lot. I noticed, so I started with the single Systemic.
Mm-hmm.
That was my introduction to you. And the first thing I noticed was, the rhythmicality of your flow, which I enjoyed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the pulse of the beat, it was like electronic and futuristic, but also like current. And then the now, I loved it.
Thank you
and
so
then
much.
I went, thank you. You did it. And then I went back and listened to the EP Sissy.
Mm-hmm.
And that one very much felt like, was that your first EP?
My first EP was Watch It, and that was an explicit EP. It's hidden in there too. It's yeah. That was made in 2017. It's not. I don't push it as much because it was a kind of a different image I was going for back then, with being more explicit and stuff. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sissy felt like earlier you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was definitely like I got it. You know, it's like queer rapper. Here I am. How you doing?
Hmm.
And it was musically very interesting, but it made me want to like see what else you had, right? So then I listened to but I must say the video for Bottom Bit is everything.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that because that was my biggest project, and it didn't really go exactly where I wanted to go. So I appreciate so much that you like that.
Talk to me about the process of coming out with Sissy, because it was very like, you know, I am present, I am here, I am mother, you will deal with me.
Hmm. So sissy was a word that was used by somebody in my family to, degrade me and stuff like that when it would come to
Mm.
situations where he wouldn't feel like I was the most feminine. And growing up, that obviously hurt me. I was very sensitive as a child, and knowing that that's a word that is used to describe, queer people and stuff at times. I wanted to reclaim it, and I wanted to use it for. I feel like we should be able to do that as if a word that is used to hurt us, we should be able to uh, use and as whenever we want. If it's in the
I
context
agree.
of yeah. So I'm just trying to basically go off of that, kind of play off of that, and yeah, it's just a lot of me, and but that's where the title came from.
Okay. I like it. It was I like the ownership of our queerness,
Yeah.
especially in, you know, a genre of music that is not always as welcoming to our community,
Hmm.
to put it lightly.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, and people want to try and act like Lil Nas X was the first queer thing in hip hop, and oh no, 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 no,
Mm-mm.
no.
Mm-mm. No, 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 no.
In fact, you know, if we want to go into the annals of the so-called greatest MCs, we'll find some overlap. That's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah, no, the hip hop industry is definitely very macho, and it's actually
Mhm.
very problematic, which is why I feel very much comfort more so in the queer environments. Than it's a weird dynamic that goes on when you perform in straight places, and yeah,
Right, because there's a certain, you know, bravado, there's a certain machismo, there's a certain
yeah,
misogyny that is, you know, if not accepted, then tolerated, which is,
right,
you know, as far as I'm concerned, the same thing.
yeah,
And you know, I'm so glad to see that there are so many open and upfront queer rappers now. It makes me happy because I remember going to like the hip hop parties in school with my friends and having to look over my shoulder because, you know, I have a little extra dip in my hip no matter what I do.
hmm,
So, you
yeah,
know, but you know, that's a scene that I enjoy. So, you know, it's like the overlap
yes,
is I'm finally glad to see that it's being like spoken about and put up front as opposed to something you always hear about like such and such was accused of being gay.
hmm,
And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, it's an accusation.
yeah. No, I understand.
You know, it's
Yeah.
annoying. Um so I imagine that you feel a lot of freedom being able, especially if you perform in mostly queer spaces, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel I love performing. Whenever I do, I'm like, I want to go perform again. And it is, there's straight people in place. I don't have a bias or like I only
They
perform for
can't
one
help
type.
it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And always appreciate any love I get. So, yeah.
I love it. And well, after I listened to Sissy, I moved on to the Move FM
Oh,
EP.
wow, thank you. Oh, I appreciate all that. Thank you.
Now that feels like everything else I listened to was leading up to this.
Right.
Like this was very like polished and tight. And not to suggest that everything else wasn't, but this was
Hmm.
like, whereas in Sissy, like the beats or soundscapes were a little bit more open ended, like they're a little more broad, so you were able to like you had more room to move,
Hmm.
whereas this was felt tighter,
Yeah.
so you were just on it. And because your flow is very like it's very rhythmic in a way that reminds me of are you familiar at all with Lost Children of Babylon
Ooh, no,
from
no.
Philly? They call themselves surrealists. And the reason why I say you remind me of them is that you pack a lot into the space. You have a lot of words in your flow that fit the beat, and you're actually more musical than they are. But just the density, of your lyrics
Yeah.
reminds me of that, and I appreciate that. Like, what are your influence? Who are your influences?
Um, so I was thinking about this because I have so many, but like in terms of, so I like to break it down like in terms of like my earliest influences would be like Little Kim,
Hmm.
Nicki Minaj, Missy Elliott, Foxy Brown, who did give me a shout out, by the way. I'm on her in her news feed on
Word.
Instagram. Yeah, so I love Foxy Brown, and in terms of who I like today, mostly it would be the queer rappers. Like Sauce Santana, Candy. There's
Hmm.
Kid Ken, and then there's who else is there? There's a few other people, but I
Ocean Code.
there's plenty out there, and I follow quite a bit of people lower, on Instagram. So yeah.
Okay, so your influences, I can understand, especially Lil Kim. There is the femme fatale slash like street swagger is like evident like in Little Kim in some of your stuff. I clocked that too.
Thank you.
I
Yeah, no,
was
that's
like, okay, she's a Kim fan.
oh yeah, definitely.
I love it. I love it. So, where do you see Move FM? Like when Move FM came out in 2023, but
Mhm.
how long ago? Because it's only January.
Right, right. No, it came out last August, September. Yeah, around September of last year, and
Okay.
yeah.
How's it been received?
It's okay. I'm still building up my audience and my fan base and stuff, but everybody who supports me and has been there for every post I love so much. And the album itself, or the EP, was in memoriam of my dog, who just had passed a month prior to me releasing it. So obviously it was in the work, but I named it after him. So yeah, that's why you get the album cover and all that. And I feel like, he was a very energetic guy, so that's where the move comes in. So
I like it. I
mhm.
like it. And R.I.P. to the fur baby.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So what are your plans for where do you see Dean FM? Like what I mean, obviously like fame and success and all that, but like what is the lane that you see yourself?
Um, I see myself in advocacy. In the beginning, I mostly was into the music. I was like, I only want to push my music and stuff. But then it's like, you can't resist the queer, people that you're gonna attract. And I couldn't, I can't just not say anything when I see all these things happening in the world. And I see myself being more, of an advocate now for my music to be more so of a base, or as just as a support. And I have a Facebook group that I it's queer casual, and that's where it's a safe space. I want to like make safe spaces and stuff like that, because I know it's hard to express mental health without a fear of whatever you fear with that, and publicly. So yeah, that's why I see myself.
I'm glad you bring up your advocacy because I was going to ask about that. Your activism, like is that your focus is queer mental health, or what is the scope of your activism?
Um, well, so one thing above all that I bring up is the transgendered women and trans people, the violence and the murder that they face throughout America. And
Yes.
I've actually found the numbers that are like, it's around, about two times as many murders of trans people over the last 4 years than it was 4 years ago. So it's, there's what I found was that it's like 60% of people is by violence, and it's a lot of people that the people know. And what's the
Mhm.
worst is the black trans women who are to me that's what I personally relate to, is the black trans women who are
That's
murdered. And
actually
there's yeah, Yeah, no, absolutely, and there's very little coverage of it, and I think that that's one of the key things that really needs to be brought out a little bit more. So yeah, that's the advocacy, and as well as mental illness, addiction, and um, I'm trying not. I try to do everything, but it's hard, And also, I also have like some animal advocacy in there too. So it's like I just want to be an advocate. It's my platform. I'm very privileged to have. So yeah.
I love it. And so you primarily use your music as a vehicle for the advocacy, or is there another arm to what you do? Like what does that look like?
For the vehicle for my advocacy would be the music. I've always had like I said, like the first EP was very explicit and like more so just not talking about anything. And I've kind of, when I decided not to be explicit for respect to my family and stuff, I had started to incorporate more serious messages under the party beats, because you can only talk about popping your booty so much, So I obviously had to put some more in there, and I had. That's kind of how I like to go about it, is putting these serious messages under these fun beats. So that you still kind of get that message, but you kind of dance about it and still, have fun with it, even though, these things are incredibly detrimental sometimes. But I've been there, and I'm trying to, dance through it too. So yeah, I would say my music and the advocacy I show in the groups online and the safe spaces, that's more so, I think, where I would hope to see the most engagement.
I love it. Yeah, and it's true. Like your music definitely needs to be listened to multiple times because,
Thank you.
like, especially for me, how there's like people that hear the beat first and people that hear the lyrics first.
Hmm.
I'm a beat first person. So
Yes.
the first time I'm listening to it, I'm catching the flow, I'm catching the musicality, and like I said, the density of your lyrics. And it doesn't all penetrate the first go around. And the second time I listen to it, it's like, oh, she got something to
Thank
say.
you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Um
The
and
density of my lyrics has been something too that I'm glad that you enjoy, because I feel like sometimes I cram a lot into such small spaces, small spaces. So I'm glad that you could get that, like what you could out of that song. So yeah.
well, yeah, and it's like, there's a fine line between packing a lot in and doing too much. And you are not doing too much. You are doing just enough.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Thank
try.
you. I appreciate it. So, well, first of all, for people that have not, heard your music, describe your sound. Because, again, you don't sound like nobody else.
Thank you. No, thank
Like,
you. I
all I can do is
appreciate.
compare you to people you remind me of. But even though you remind me of them, you don't sound like them.
Right. No, I because I've asked people, like, who do I sound like? That's, yeah. People say that I don't have a very distinct or recognizable voice, but I'd say um so like with my sound would be very much dance hall.
Mm-hmm.
Dance hall. I'm influenced a lot by Jamaican stuff, and I'm also influenced by uh, well, first of all, the culture in my family, and also the atmosphere. That I've always been taught to be very worldly and very, stuff like that. So I'm a drum person. I don't like melody. I feel like melody makes me cry. I don't know why. And to be a musician, I feel like that's awful, but I really don't like a whole lot of, instruments and stuff, because for some reason it clicks differently in my mind. I don't like to feel whatever that's supposed to make you feel. So, that's a lot. My sound is just trying to, and still, like, you need melody for these deep things, and I don't put it over the melody. I put it over the drums and the bass and the percussion, and that's what makes my sound mostly.
Okay. Yeah. So you had to like break it down to even describe it because it's that it's that unique. I
Thank you.
appreciate that so much. So yeah, I I'm a fan.
Thank you.
Basically. And so in terms of like the queerness of your milieu, of your body of work, like what is it that you think resonates with our community? You being out there and being the artist that you are.
Um, so more so, what do you mean when you say like what in terms of what's in my music that people would relate to, or
Just you, well, yes, your music, but you being the musician, you being the presence, like how, well, like, what do you think that you give the children, basically? Like, what, like, what is it that you feel is resonating with the community, like that you've been able to notice?
I want people to know that it's okay to be queer and it's okay to have a different appearance. Sorry, and so I feel like one thing that I've done, which is when I was working at this market right down the street in the suburbs, and I would every day. Just to go work as a cashier, I would spend 2 hours on my makeup and 2 hours on my outfit just to walk down the street, and obviously I look different as for a cashier, but a lot of people said, thank you for bringing color to this town. Thank you for bringing, because it's a white town and all that. So, you know,
Mm,
I feel like when I would hope, and I don't want to, think too much of what I do, but like I would hope that when people see an example, like a child sees an example of somebody who looks extremely different, it's okay to wear a little eyeliner. If you're a boy, if I have, that going on. So I feel like I try to make it a little, even for women too. You don't need to, you can feel more confident to do different things, because I didn't always look good, and it's like, so I that's kind of where I see myself trying to just being out there and having an image out there that's always genderqueer is what I challenge people to be more expressive, because I feel like the big thing in the queer community is many people are identifying and are able to confidently express being non-binary and all that thing. But I still feel like in terms of appearance, many people are afraid to express themselves. So I want that to be more of a thing. So
I love it. So, growing up, who would you say were your I don't want to say idols, but like, because okay, so for me as a kid, I loved Wonder Woman.
hmm
you
yeah,
know, I also loved like the Transformers.
yeah,
So it's like I was that kid that always loved like robots and shit blowing up. But
hmm
then I also remember as a little kid putting on my cowboy boots and clothespinning a towel around my shoulders and spinning around my room when Wonder Woman
okay.
came on. So like who was that for you growing up?
um, in terms of people in media, Raven Simone, number one, first and
Mm.
foremost, was definitely the first person on television that I was hooked on immediately. That was a female, and she's definitely, especially since she come out as queer recently, it's like, okay, that makes sense, because me and I know many other black queer males as well have loved her a lot, and she saved us, a lot of us too. So I love her in terms of like an early model, and then like mm, just anybody around me, who's queer has helped me out. And also, I feel media has played a huge part in me being able to reach out, and I truly believe the internet has saved my life, because I wouldn't have known that 10 years ago or 15 years ago it was a good time to come out, uh, being the environment I'm in. But yeah, about the influences, definitely Raven Simone. I don't know. There weren't a lot of queer men back then that I was that were on TV. I don't think, but yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
about.
that's true because like queer men on television for the most part were either, tragic figures or the butt of the joke.
Jokes. Yeah, yeah.
you know so I guess that's why I saw myself in feminine and female characters, because a lot of times they were the odd one out in the group in whatever show that was, and I
hmm
also gravitated towards whoever was different.
Yeah,
And I'm sure
yeah,
you felt the same way.
yeah. Pocahontas too, by the way. Pocahontas. I like her. She
I
she
see
was
that.
that bitch. Yeah. Sorry. No. Yeah. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yes, I love it, I love it, I love it. So you see yourself as being, you know, a foremost voice for queer advocacy and trans and non-binary advocacy through your music, which I think is a fabulous thing. And I wish you nothing but success, because we need more loud voices. We need more talented voices. We need people that, can stand the spotlight,
Wow.
and I appreciate that.
Trying.
Have you,
Yeah.
yeah, you're doing it, baby. You're doing it. So if we wanted to learn more about Dean FM and what you do, where should we go? Where should we visit?
Well, you can go to deanfmofficial.com, and you can go to Facebook. It's Dean FM on all platforms, Dean FM Official. It's Dean FM Official. And on Dean FM Official, you can find the Queer Casual group page where I'm encouraging people to come and to express themselves. We're just beginning, so I would encourage that. And you can also see me on YouTube, and all those platforms and stuff. And I would also like to say I have an album releasing this week that's called Eclectic. It's a 14-song album, and I'm very excited about that. That's my huge thing. My heart's pounding about that. So that's my big thing. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So wait, what can we expect from this new album? Is it going to be an expansion of what we've been doing, something new?
We got some cuss words in there this time, because I don't want to be too corny. I got some clean songs and some explicit songs, but it's very much the vibe of Sissy and the vibe of worldliness and being eclectic. I also want to start like an eclectic movement, but there's so many movements I can start, at once. So that's my thing going on.
Do it. I am here for the movement.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dean FM, for sharing today.
It was such a pleasure.
I can't wait to continue to follow you.
Yes, and you too. You got a new fan too.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
And say hi to Martha for me.
I will.
Okay, sounds good. All right, bye-bye.
Full Circle is a Never Scared Productions podcast, hosted by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal, produced and edited by Never Scared, executive produced by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal. Our theme and music is by the Jingleberries. All names, pictures, music, audio, and video clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective copyright holders.